Hey guys, it's Drummond. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you know whenever I'm posting my next video. So today's video, I wanted to talk about bad bosses. So when it comes to working, there are people who have gotten into leadership positions that really shouldn't be in leadership positions. And as someone who's in a leadership position now, I realize that when it comes to getting higher up, there seems to be less work, but that's if you're a bad leader. If you are a good leader, you'll realize that there's a lot more work, but if you choose to be lazy and throw the work on other people, then it's completely possible for you to be climbing the ladder and doing less work, which should never be the case, but it happens. People get promoted for reasons that they shouldn't be getting promoted, like they're sleeping with people, or they're paying people, or they're doing other different favors, or if they're just friends with the person that's hiring. So for me, I had a situation where my boss kind of got promoted because his friend or his boss at the time got promoted, so he just kind of pulled him up with him. And he had zero leadership skills and really shouldn't have been a leader. And when it came to being professional, this guy had zero ability to be professional. As you guys watch this video, you will see that I was literally living a nightmare in this job. And I'm so thankful that I'm out of it and that I am in a different place where I am surrounded by employees that are extremely dedicated to doing their job and making sure that they're doing the right things. So starting the story off, I started working in Best Buy in early 2013, I believe. And I was actually top in sales within a year and a half of working there. And I got to go to Puerto Rico with all the top people in the company, which was extremely awesome. But for me to be top in the company in a store in the middle of Virginia, which is pretty rural, is a pretty big deal. So I was pretty ecstatic that I was top in the company. But then I was denied a couple promotions within Best Buy, and then Best Buy did what they always do, which is cutting employees in higher positions because they do business reorgs where they just kind of cut different positions to save money. And I was just like, you know what? I don't want to be in that line of fire. And one of my friends was working for Samsung with inside of Best Buy, and he was like, hey, there's an opening. Would you be interested in interviewing? And I was like, yes, that sounds awesome. And the pay was double from what I was making at Best Buy. So I was like, this is most definitely the direction I need to be going. So I took the job with Samsung and ended up moving to a different city. I was on cloud nine just because, one, it was a great opportunity, and two, I was actually moving closer to my family, which I'd been away from for so long. So I was extremely excited about this position. But it wasn't long after I got this position that I realized that this was a position that was going to probably be the end of me when it came to working jobs in retail. One, because my boss was horrible. Two, the way that the company was set up was horrible. It was just not a great job in the first place. One of the struggles that I had to overcome was the fact that the area that I was in was very Apple oriented, and I was trying to sell Samsung to a community that was already very Apple obsessed. And honestly, I am also an Apple user, so I had my work phone that was Samsung and my personal phone, which was Apple, which was hard enough. And when it came to my boss's opinion, you shouldn't be a Samsung rep if you have an Apple phone. And honestly, I felt like it made me a better salesperson because I knew both systems. I knew the limits of Apple, I knew the limits of Samsung, and I could use that to sell to people. But my boss didn't see it that way. And honestly, my first impression of him was trying to teach me how to sell or how to be a good salesperson by saying that when he was in high school, he used to sell drugs. And he said that it didn't matter if his drugs were the best drugs, but as long as he could convince them that his drugs were the best, then he was going to be the best salesperson. And I was just like, is my boss literally comparing selling phones right now to selling drugs? I'm like, how unprofessional is this? And I should have known right there that that was going to be not a good relationship with me and my boss, because I am 100% for like drinking of legal age. And honestly, I feel like the only reason weed is not legal right now is because the government hasn't found a way to make profit off of it. But when it comes to a professional relationship that you have with your boss, especially in that setting, I don't feel like comparing your drug deals when you were in high school to selling in a professional setting is okay. And when it came to other things, so my sexual orientation did get brought up. And he thought it was professional to kind of talk to me about this. And it wasn't on a professional level where he was trying to educate himself on the LGBT community. It was him trying to convince me that all I needed to do was get drunk and get my friend Meg, who worked for Apple at the time, drunk and just slip it in her, and that once I stuck my penis inside of a vagina, I would never want to stick it into a dirty asshole again. So this is actually a conversation that I had with my boss, and I was so extremely uncomfortable. But at that time, I did not turn him in. I didn't say anything to HR about it. I was just like, you know what? He's just unaware and uneducated and just not so smart when it comes to what you should be discussing at work. So I just let that one slide, which I guess a lot of you guys are probably watching this and you're just like, what the hell? Like, anyone who said something like that would report that. But I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it slide. The money was good. I had told my friend Meg about it, and she actually got really upset because she was actually watching me have that conversation with my boss, and she saw like my face just kind of get distorted. And she was like, what were you guys talking about? And I was like, how about I tell you over a couple drinks later tonight? And we were just sitting at the bar, and I was just like, how am I supposed to work with someone who's so unprofessional? Later on, so we got to the quarter, or the end of the quarter, and Apple and HP and Samsung, we're all like, we report different things and we do presentations for Best Buy to kind of let them know our business model and what we tend to do as reps within their store, because we don't work for Best Buy, but we work in Best Buy. So the merchandise that we sell is for Best Buy, and the numbers go towards me, even though the merchandise is Best Buy's to sell. So we have to create a relationship. So Apple comes in and puts this like really professional like diagram and everything up on the screen, and they're just talking about all their numbers and plans. And then HP gets up and talks about the printers and the computers that they're selling. And then my boss gets up there, and this is after store hours, so the store's already closed by this time, and my boss is high. And it is so obvious. I get up there and I'm starting to talk about Samsung's numbers and things that I've been doing in the store to improve Samsung sales and help educate associates about Samsung. And my boss is sitting there like giggling and laughing and like doing the weirdest things. Like he's sitting there like, oh yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, how unprofessional. He gets up, has nothing to present. He just kind of gets up there and is like giggling and like talking shit about the other brands and talking how Samsung's the best. I'm like, wow, this is so extremely unprofessional. And at that point, I was just like, my boss is high. There's got to be someone who's noticing this other than me. And I started talking to people, which at the time, the mobile manager at my store was also friends. He had actually worked with my boss in the past. So once again, I'm running into my boss's boss is his friend. The other people that I'm working with within Best Buy is his friend. So I'm in a situation where if I am pushing too hard, people are going to start pushing on my career where my job becomes something that's on the line. And I didn't want to do that. So I put myself in an extremely awkward situation, which hopefully if you guys are in a situation like this at work, you get the hell out of there, because it is not worth it. Your happiness and stress level are things that you need to monitor, and if it's unhealthy, you need to get the hell out of there, because there's many more jobs out there and completely not worth it. But the time that I actually ended up having to report him, Best Buy was actually getting involved already, because I had a run-in with one of the other employees, and living in rural America, LGBT stuff isn't that widely accepted. And one of my coworkers, she was being very loud about her political opinions, and she had actually upset one of my coworkers who worked for Best Buy. But this person was talking about how much she hated Obama and how she's super excited about Trump being president because the police officers can finally put the black people in their places. And I was just like, oh my God. My coworker that got upset was black, and I could see it on her face that she was upset. So later on in that day, I just kind of reached out to the employee that was being extremely racist. And I was just like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that maybe you should keep your political opinions to yourself while at work, just because this isn't really the place to discuss those types of things. And she kind of let me have it. She not only let me know how extremely racist she was by the things that she said. She also let me know exactly how homophobic she was and how my lifestyle was disgusting to her. And this carried on over into a Facebook messaging thing after work because I felt like it was unprofessional to continue that conversation within the workplace. And I was just like, hey, like, I understand that these are your views. I'm not trying to impede on those views. Like, if you want to have those views, just go for it. But the workplace is not a great place for that. And later on, I ended up having to report her for a lot of the things she said because she just went way over the line. And she actually came up to me the next day and she like gave me a hug and she's just like, I just want you to know that I still love you as a person, even though I find your lifestyle disgusting. And I was just like, wow, like you think that you can come up to me where I'm working and say something like that? I was just like, no, this is not okay. So I reported it. So my boss had to get involved because it was reported through Best Buy because it was a Best Buy employee who said it. My boss ended up having to get involved. My HR had to get involved with Best Buy's HR. And then my boss ended up creating a whole nother slew of problems because he brought me to lunch just to kind of talk about the situation and see what had gone down. After I told him, I was like, hey, she was just saying these things, and I just kind of brought it to attention that maybe it shouldn't be something she talks about. His response was, well, maybe you shouldn't be flaunting your gayness at work. And I was just like, what the hell? How is me saying, hey, just keep that like out of the workplace, me flaunting being gay? And he was just like pretty much saying that it was my fault that I was in this situation and that maybe if I had just been a little bit more quiet. And I'm like, well, it's not like I go into work like, hey, I'm a homosexual. Hey, I let guys stick their dick in my butt. That was something that he had talked to me about. And I was just like, I literally, like, if anything about me at work was brought up about me being gay, it was just someone saying, are you gay? And I was like, yeah. I'm not afraid to say that I'm gay. I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm not something that I am just to make other people comfortable. But the fact that he was attacking me saying that maybe if I like didn't talk about that type of stuff at work was the solution to this problem, I was like, no. So I ended up having to report him for HR stuff as well. And then I kind of brought everything else back from the past and was just like, this is all the stuff that's gone down. He had done a lot of inappropriate things and I just kind of threw it all in there. And it was just like, he's come into work, he's cussed out Best Buy employees, he's just made scenes in the place because he's come into work high. He's told me that in the previous jobs that he's had with that company that he'd actually used like the 5-hour energy drink bottles to get pee in so that he could put it into a cup so he could pass drug tests. So literally he's given me all the proof I needed, but at the end he ended up still keeping his job. I ended up leaving just because I couldn't handle all of it. And that's when I started to realize that a lot of HRs aren't really there to protect the employees. They're really there to protect the face of the company. So they didn't want me saying anything and they're just like, ooh, we don't want this to become a bigger problem. So we're just going to be like, what can we do to help you? What can we do to make you feel better? Thankfully, he ended up having to be transferred to another location because of a reorg in the company. So when I left Samsung, there was actually another boss that I had, but the whole situation with the Best Buy employee, with my boss, it just made the whole job a horrible place to be. So I ended up leaving. I got the job at the health department, which you guys have seen a video of if you watched any of my other videos on my channel, where I got let go shortly after getting the job. And then, yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And like I said before, I've got other social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Go follow me on those. I'll leave those links down there for you guys to check those out. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.